Hello and welcome back to the Of Clay and Stone podcast. We're your host, Josh Santana.
And Jocelyn Santana.
And if this is your first time tuning in, make sure to subscribe to stay up to date with our content. And if you haven't checked out our last series, make sure to check that out because we laid down a foundation on what the gospel is, its implications, the weight it should hold in our lives, and how that should change us. Last video, we started a new series on the things that will never fulfill us, no matter how badly we want them, no matter how badly we pursue them or try. And we talked about what an idol was. We talked about how an idol isn't just how most people picture it. Ancient cultures bowing down to carved images of animals, a golden calf if we think about the Bible. An idol is just anything that controls your emotions, your actions, your desires so much. It's something that you put so much weight on, something that you feel like you couldn't imagine life without it, you couldn't be happy without it, that you need this thing to just have any peace, identity, joy, fulfillment, kind of like the grass is greener mentality. If only I could get this, then I'd be happy. If only I could get this, then I'd be fulfilled. If only I could get this, then and blah, 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 whatever you want to put in there.
Yeah, and it's not only like, when we think of the word idols, we think of like in a Christian world, we think of bad things.
Right.
But idols could be good things that become God things that have that weight behind them.
Right. It can be like a relationship. A relationship is a good thing, but if you depend on a relationship for your identity, all your fulfillment, all your joy, that's an idol, and that's bad. It can be sports, it can be a job, it can be so many things that God has given us for enjoyment, for good reasons. But when we make those things the ultimate thing that gives us our affection, our identity, our peace, then that's when it becomes a God thing, and that's when it becomes an idol. Because again, God has to be the main thing that we get our identity from, our fulfillment from, all of that. So today we're going to be getting into the first main idol that I would say every single person struggles with: love and approval. And if you're hearing this and you say, no, I think I could tune out here because that's not me, I don't care what people think about me, then I would honestly say the reason you think that is because you want other people to think you're cool because you don't think what other people think about you. And in that end, you actually do care what people think about you.
Yeah.
And so you struggle with it as well. So none of us can really get really far off of this one just because of the culture we're really raised in.
Yeah, and I mean our culture right now, like, it's heavily influenced by like social media, and all of us, I'm in the same boat, we all kind of want the approval from people on social media. We're looking for those Facebook likes or those Instagram follows and like all of this other stuff, positive comments and all of this. So it's really something it affects everybody.
Right.
Whether we like to admit it or not, we live in a day and age where it affects everybody.
Right. And social media aside, I think another really big factor is honestly Disney. And I love Disney. We have Disney Plus. My favorite movie is Hercules. I think that one's one that is really like slept on. It's a really good one. What's your favorite Disney movie?
You know that's not a fair question, Josh.
All right, well, probably Lilo and Stitch, right?
Yes, but you can't just plant your flagpole in one camp,
All right.
Just so people get to know us a little bit more. I grew up on Disney. You didn't really grow up on Disney.
Well, I watched some of the movies.
Some, but I really love Disney.
Right.
And I'm the type of person that could watch a Disney movie on repeat for hours.
Right.
So, it's kind of hard for me to choose one just because I love so many of them.
Sure. But okay, well, I'll set that aside. Maybe we'll get back to that later. But
side tangents.
Not that Disney is bad, because again, we're not saying Disney is bad, because there's magic in them. There are really good movies. But this generation has really grown up with Disney films. We've grown up with all those stories, and sadly, that can be a good thing and a bad thing. A good thing in that it has helped us with our imagination, our creativity. But badly in a way that it has helped us, or maybe not helped is the right word, but it has made us misunderstand what love is, what relationships are, and it's kind of subliminally indoctrinated us. Not maybe not intentionally. I'm not saying
Yeah.
that there's malice behind it, but it has given us a view of what love should look like for us, and it has made us pursue love in a way that is actually not healthy.
Yeah, and I just want to like put a disclaimer, like it's not just Disney. I
Right.
think that it's just our entire like culture, you know, like the
Right.
just movies in general. I think we just chose Disney just because it's something that we both grew up with, you know, and it's
Sure. I think it's something that
just
everyone's grown up with.
yeah, and so it's just an easier example, you know?
Right. I
Because
mean, it's a really easy example that Disney says that a man should walk up to a woman in a coma, kiss her, she'll wake up, and then have no problem with it, and then fall in love with him, and marry him. So that's what we should do. We should
Sleeping Beauty.
just walk up to random sleeping women, make out with them, and
Sleeping Beauty,
no
Snow White.
repercussions. I mean, obviously, that's not how it works. You're not going to get a wife if you do that. You will end up in jail. So that's not what love is. That's infatuation, and we're going to kind of get into that. But growing up, I thought, because of watching Disney movies, me personally, from my experience, I thought that I had to find that one woman who could finally fulfill me, who could make my life a fairy tale, lead me to a happily ever after, that all my needs would be filled, that I'd be finally complete, that it would be my other half, that any insecurities I had would all be gone, that, you know, all of those things would be met in this one other person. And it wasn't until I started dating that I started realizing that no matter who I dated, none of it ever ended like that. And it was never like what Disney taught me or any movie. I mean, I watched Spider-Man a lot, you know, Tobey Maguire, Mary Jane, all that stuff. But that being aside, I think that I went through this cycle that most people can relate. I know you can't really relate because you only
Yeah.
dated me.
Yeah, so that's a story for another video.
That's in the story for another video, but I was her first boyfriend, and then she ended up marrying me. So she can't really talk about this, but I think those of you that are listening can really relate to this. Who's at least have had one relationship that ended.
Yeah, and I think it's important to note though that like we had completely different like worldviews on what relationships were or like what love was, you know,
Right.
because like I grew up in a faith believing home, so
Right,
like
and I didn't.
my definition of love was like Christ like love.
Right.
You know, it wasn't, yes, I watched the Disney movies, and yes, it did have I guess an influence somewhat, but again, like my parents corrected that a lot, you
Right.
know? So just that's
Yeah.
why I
All
could
right.
relate to a certain extent.
All right. Well, let's talk about this cycle of infatuation and then heartbreak. It starts by being infatuated by another person. In my case, obviously, a girl. But the thing is that by infatuation, I don't mean what Disney calls love. You know, being willing to die for another person. You know, those strong feelings of love. I just mean attraction. Finding somebody that you think looks nice, maybe he's a little funny, has some decent qualities. So you're infatuated with them. And then you become blind to their faults and you project onto them your ideas of what a perfect person is onto them. And just like clockwork, a month later, your illusions start to shatter. And then you would see the other person for who they really are. You'd be miserable, and then the relationship would end.
So this is called, I mean, I feel like that stage of like just being infatuated with a person and kind of like masking who they are and projecting like things on to them is called like the honeymoon stage.
Right.
I mean, I guess that's what I learned in rom-coms.
Sure.
That's like the sweet spot where everything's all nice and butterflies and all of this stuff, you know? And
Right.
again, like you're not seeing the person for
Yeah, you're
they
not
are.
dating the person. You're
Just
dating
an ideal.
the idea of who you want them to be, because of again all those expectations brought on by things like Disney or social media, and again your illusions shatter, and then you end up being alone. You end up heartbroken, and then maybe you're single for a month, maybe a year, 6 months, whatever. And then you start feeling that Disney standard on you again, saying you need to find someone to be happy. You need to find someone to be fulfilled. You can't be alone because being single is bad. You need to find that other person, that one who's out there. So then you find somebody else, and again, the cycle begins again and again and again, and you never really realize the real point of what love is supposed to be. You're just running around trying to find people that can fulfill you, but you're only chasing ideals that are not real people. And that's sadly why dating leads to so much heartbreak. And we end up even changing ourselves a lot of the times in relationships because we want to keep somebody. But even that love that we get from them is not the love that we want or deserve. And we end up hating ourselves because we change to somebody we don't even want to be. So that's why dating can be so hard when you have this standard of this idol of love and approval on you. And again, I was told being alone was bad. I was told that, and if you're by yourself, you're not complete because you need to find your other half. You need to find somebody that completes you. But again, what if we're talking to Christians here? What does that say again to Jesus? Obviously, he was single his whole life. Was he empty? Was he only half a person because he didn't find his other half, the one? Was he never fulfilled? John the Baptist, the disciple Paul, or the apostle Paul? Sorry. So what does that say about those people? And how badly does that make single people feel? Again, those standards are unrealistic. And it wasn't until after I got saved, after I became a Christian at 16, and I fell in love with Jesus, that I realized one truth when it came to relationships. And these are the truths. Two broken people cannot fulfill each other. Everybody is broken, equally broken. If you think you're broken more than another person, you're not. They're just pretending, they're hiding their faults. Everyone is equally broken. And the thing is, if we put all of our hopes to being fulfilled in one person, that's never going to happen because two broken people cannot fulfill each other. We're trying to think that we're two really amazing puzzle pieces that'll fit together. That's not how it works. We're more like a bunch of random jagged edges that never really connect perfectly. We're broken. And when we put, again, all of our hopes into another person and turn that good thing into a God thing, this will only lead to issues and heartbreak. Now, some of you that might be listening might be better at dating than me. So I mean, obviously I'm married now, so I finally figured it out. But some of you...
Well, we're still dating.
Yeah, well, we still have our date nights. We're still dating. Obviously, we're married, but we still go on dates. We still get to know each other more and deeply and intimately. So yes, we are still technically dating, I guess.
Yes, Josh, don't forget that.
But some of you might not be going through this cycle of just trying to find somebody to fulfill you and have just gone through a lot of relationships. Maybe some of you aren't going through that. Maybe some of you are truly waiting for somebody special. And not like changing yourself, hurting yourself, doing all that stuff that's most people go through. But the idol of love and approval doesn't just apply to romantic relationships. And that's something that we really need to understand. It applies to every relationship. Yeah. Anything that having to do with any other person.
Yeah, because I mean, like you said earlier, like you're the first person I ever dated and I married you.
Right.
You know, and I mean, this is definitely a struggle for me. You know, this is definitely one of my idols, but it doesn't necessarily, like, it's not because I try to find my fulfillment or like my approval in like our relationship, you know,
right.
But like for me, like it was always like my relationship with my parents,
yeah,
and like finding their approval and wanting to like make them happy, wanting to make them proud, and like, and again, like, I mean, that's almost every child, I
right.
would say. But I know for me, like, it's gone to, like, a very unhealthy place where, like,
right.
That's, like, if I know, like, my parents, or I feel like my parents aren't proud of me, then it leads to a complete, like, breakdown and depression.
Right.
And that's me, like, having that idol.
Right.
You know, like, bowing down to that. So
right. So like you were trying to say, parents can be one of those relationships where you can try to gain your approval from. If you put your effort, your emotions, and all your hope into trying to be accepted and approved by your parents or friends or even strangers, again, that's an idol. And it can be anywhere from a relationship with a romantic relationship. It can be a familial relationship with your parents. It can be your friends. And again, I think we should really emphasize that it can even be strangers.
Yeah,
You could be,
especially with the whole like social media
right,
culture.
trying to make people like you whenever, like even I sometimes, like I'm like I have to go to the store to pick up something really quick, but I'm like I don't look really well. Should I like dress up a little better because some random person that I'll never see again might see me and think for like 2 seconds that I look weird. Like I think we all have those type of thoughts. Like
my mom would say, you look like a fodongo.
yeah,
You look fodongo.
you look homeless. Yeah, like they would say that sometimes. But yeah, I mean, we have these thoughts. Like some of us are so desperate to be approved and accepted by others that we care so much about what random people on the street that we'll never see again, what they care about us, and we're just trying so hard to get their approval. So it can be anywhere on that spectrum of where you get your approval and your acceptance from and your love from. Sometimes we try to keep up with the latest trends in slang or fashion so we can be cool enough with our friends. Some of us in high school or college, or maybe even some of us that are older, we try to starve ourselves, or we do sports, or maybe even develop eating disorders so we can feel beautiful, we can look a certain way, and we do things that we might not like, and think that betrays who we are so that we can be considered popular. It can be like drugs, or it can be in doing things in relationships that we're not comfortable with.
Yeah, so
but
getting
we want,
into like peer pressures.
yeah, like peer pressures in a relationship, with like certain like sexual stuff, or I don't know, sending pictures that we wouldn't want to do, but we get peer pressured into it, and we don't want to lose a person or have them think certain things about us, so we give into it because we really want them to feel that way about us. All of these are desperate attempts to gain love, which is always going to be empty, even if we achieve it, because opinions always change quickly. No matter how far we chase these things, we're always going to have to keep chasing them, because even if you're like in a relationship and you fall into peer pressure, by sending pictures of yourself, and you're not comfortable with that, that person is going to be satisfied for a day, and then the next day they're going to ask you for more and more and more, and it's never going to be good enough. And you're just going to get to that point where you feel like you're just giving so much away from yourself.
Yeah.
But obviously, that's not where your identity comes from. So if you do feel insecure about that, and you feel like you're not good enough because you've gone down that road, again, we're going to get into the gospel, and that's not where your identity comes from. That's not who you are. But again, whether we try to gain our love from a romantic relationship, from the approval and acceptance of others, it will never truly fulfill us, because we always will be desperate to do whatever it takes to keep that love, acceptance, or approval. And we will either become people that we hate, or we will always be disappointed and heartbroken when the love that we seek ends up not being enough. What do you think? You agree?
I agree.
That's good.
Yeah, it's just.
I know it's a lot.
Yeah,
it's heavy, because obviously you and I both struggle with this in different ways.
Yeah, and I mean it's a hard pill to swallow.
Right.
Definitely a hard pill to swallow. But again, like for people that have gone down that rabbit hole, like there is redemption for that.
Right.
You know, and it's gonna be a struggle.
It is, yeah. And so let's get to the good side of this, because obviously we're probably getting in a place where most people that are listening are like, ooh, yeah, like a lot of oofs going on, because we're hitting the nail right on the head. But let's get to the good news, because I know a lot of you are probably desperate now. You're like, okay, I get it. I'm bad. I'm pursuing all these things.
It's okay. We are.
It's
too.
okay, and it's okay. Yeah, we are too. Like I heard it said that all people, including Christians, are like beggars. They're poor people. And Christians aren't different from people that are not Christians. The only thing that is different is we know where the food is. We don't have food within us, that we're not rich people that are carrying it. We're still desperately hungry, but we know where the food is, and we can go get that. We know the source, and we can point others to it. So I mean, we're all in the same boat. But how about, instead again of trying to pursue this fake Disney love or the approval of others, instead we try to always gain the or sorry, instead of trying to gain the approval of others, we instead rest in the one whose opinion truly matters. What people say of you will change faster than the direction of the wind. We know that. But what God says stands and will never change. And by God, obviously, we mean Jesus. I think it's important in today's day and age to not over spiritualize the term God and use
the God
His
of the
name.
Bible.
Right, the God of the
God
Bible.
of the Bible.
Right, Yahweh. So there's this famous verse that a lot of you probably have heard, Psalm 139:14, that you are fearfully and wonderfully made. If you've never heard that, then congratulations. You're fearfully and wonderfully made. But if you've heard this a lot, you might have heard it so much, but you don't know what it means.
Or it doesn't have any weight.
Or it doesn't have any weight. You just say, okay, I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. All right, whatever. What does that mean? But what it means is that when God sees you, He doesn't see someone that is struggling or someone that has all these faults in this broken past, but He sees His perfect and beautiful sons and daughters. He doesn't see people that need to prove themselves or that need to hide, but He sees Jesus' perfect and finished work in you so that you can just rest in His perfect, unconditional acceptance and love of God. If you've accepted, if you've given your life to Jesus, then you can rest in that you have been washed clean, that your past has no more effect on you, that this is all now an undeniable fact. It's not just another opinion that now you have to sift through, just like you have to sift through the opinions of all these people that you're trying to get the approval of your parents, strangers, family, relationship, and now God. No, you can throw away all those opinions and rest in the fact of who God says you are. If you look yourself up in the definition in the dictionary, under the definition would be just a picture of what He says. So since He creates you, He gets to define you. And again, if you haven't given your life to Jesus and you do want this, then yeah, take that step. If you want to have that identity of being a perfect son and daughter that is completely washed clean, that your past has no more effect on you, no more hold on you, that's not who you are, then just turn to Jesus. Accept what He's done. He lived the perfect life that you couldn't, and died the death that you deserve so that you could come near to Him and that He could have you and be your Father and hold you and always be with you. So if you want to do that, do that. But again, since He creates you, He gets to define you. I always say this analogy that might not really make sense, but or anecdote. Sorry, I know I hear all my high school English teachers getting mad at me for using the wrong term. But if a painter paints this really obscure painting, imagine going to like a museum and you see a painting with just a bunch of random lines and circles and shapes and stuff. If a painter paints this really obscure and abstract painting, and people go in front of it and try to guess what it is, no matter what they guess, the painting is ultimately what the artist says it is. People can guess that it's like, oh, it's a banana, it's a car, it's a house. But if he says it's, I don't know, like a phone or something, then that's what it is. You can't argue with him.
Yeah.
He painted it. He defines it. It's not an opinion among the other opinion. He defines it because he made it. He gets to define it.
Tangent though, like I think this is a good example because I mean I've been to a lot of museums, especially the ones in LA. Like if you guys know, there's that the museums with like all those like lampposts and stuff like that, and like the mammoths and stuff. And I forgot the name. Don't criticize me. Be easy on me. Have grace towards me. I forgot the name, but yeah, like that is an actual experience. Like you go to a museum and like you look at all of these paintings or like cool pottery and stuff like that, and like again, I don't know, it's just a real life example.
Yeah.
Tangents. Sorry.
Yeah, good tangent. So so if God made it, He gets to define it. What other people think of you, those are opinions. But what God declares over you, those are facts. Again, what other people think of you, those are opinions, and they quickly change, and they have no real weight. But what God declares over you, those are facts.
They're not just facts, they're truth.
I think facts are based in truth, though.
Yeah, I know, but I like the word truth more.
Okay,
Josh.
all right, that's great. But
Don't laugh at me.
so resting in a relationship with God, where we know we are unconditionally loved and accepted, and we never have to question that or prove ourselves, is the only way to have an unshakable identity and to avoid the heartache of pursuing love and identity in a romantic relationships or with friends, parents, or strangers. Again, when you rest in that relationship with God, if you have one with Him, then you can know you are unconditionally loved. You're unconditionally accepted. That won't change no matter how much time passes, no matter how badly you mess up. Again, we talked in a couple of videos before, the cross is so final that no matter what you've done, that will never be brought up again. No matter what you could do and how much you could mess up, that can never touch what has already been clean. It's been made clean and it can never be dirtied again. So that never changes it. You never have to prove yourselves to God. And you can have an unshakable identity and not be, again, having that heartache of pursuing the love and identity in romantic relationships or with your parents, friends, or strangers.
Just relationships in general.
Or, yeah, any relationship. Because, again, like, you could struggle with it with your parents. Again, they want you to go into a certain career, go to a certain college, and you don't want to do that with your life, but you just feel like, I guess I have to because I don't want to upset my parents.
Yeah, which is...
Don't do that. It's your life. It's not their life. I mean, don't just, like, drop out and, like, I don't know, like...
Don't be disrespectful.
Don't be disrespectful and just do something, like, I don't know, like, waste your life. But if you feel like you have a passion and God's leading you somewhere, then do it. And respect your parents in all the meanwhile. Don't let that be a holdback because, again, it's your life. But anyways, again, I think this idol is one that we all struggle with. Me and you personally, we can admit that at least.
Oh yeah, I struggle with this one all the time. All the time,
right.
like at least 3 times a day. No, but like in all honesty, like this is one of the big ones for me.
Right.
You know, I mean, maybe we'll get into testimonies later on in the future, but I mean, this is definitely one of the evident ones in my life. And it's a really hard idol to let go of and to like surrender.
Right.
You know, and again, like walking and abiding in Jesus, walking with Jesus and like letting go of all of these things is hard, you know, and we're never going to be perfected and sanctified, you know, till Jesus comes again. But the great thing is that God has grace towards us and He forgives us for this, you know, and He, again, is in constant pursuit of our hearts and He walks with us in this, you know, so we're not alone. He's walking with us, holding our hand. And, you know, when we do fall into this, He's there with His arms open, waiting for us to run back to Him.
Right. And again, we do struggle with this. And for those of you listening, I think it would just be a great victory just for you if you could admit that you do struggle with this, that this is something that does weigh on you. Because if you don't know what you're battling, like if you walked into a battlefield and you just were blindfolded and you were just, I don't know, waving a sword around and there's an army all around you, you wouldn't be able to defeat it. You can't see what you're attacking, so you wouldn't know how to be able to defeat it. In the same way, we're fighting this battle against spiritual things, against these idols in our lives. And if you don't know that you struggle with it, then how are you ever going to beat it? The first step, again, is accepting that. Do you struggle with this? Do you struggle with the approval of others? Do you struggle with trying to gain your identity in a romantic relationship or from your parents or from strangers or social media, whatever it is? And if you do, admit it. And then seek something better, because you're going to realize that that's not what's going to fulfill you.
Yeah. And honestly, Josh, I would add to that. Like, I would even go a step further and be like encourage people to be very transparent, not only
Right.
with themselves, but with other people on their struggles, you
Yeah.
know, because that's what the church is for,
Yeah.
you know? I know the church fails you a lot. People in the church fail you. Trust me, I know.
Me too.
But I mean, there's beauty in that, and like having your brothers and sisters in Christ knowing your struggles and like
Right.
keeping you in prayer and keeping
Yeah.
you accountable and pointing you back to Jesus, because you
Yeah.
know, like we can, like I know for us, like I can tell you everything that I'm struggling with,
Right.
and you could keep me accountable, but sometimes, like, I don't know what it is, but sometimes we don't want to hear like our parents or our significant other tell us the truth because we won't hear it.
Right.
Sometimes it takes like somebody from like our congregation or somebody from like our women's group or a men's
Right.
group to like walk alongside us.
Yeah.
You know?
And also feel free to reach out to us. Obviously, we have a Facebook, Instagram, email, like literally any way you want to reach us. If you want to get in contact with us and talk about just your story, need somebody to pray for you, need somebody to just talk something through, we're here for you. Again, we're here to walk alongside you guys.
Yeah. And even if you're not a
Even if you're not a believer, if you have
you know,
questions,
like,
if you have anything, just feel free to reach out to us.
we're not scary. At least I
Yeah.
hope we aren't.
Right.
It's just,
Yeah.
like the whole point of this is to make Jesus known, you
Right.
know, and to share the love of Christ and what he's done on the cross, and, you know, living into what the gospel is, and,
Right.
you know, and yeah.
Yeah.
Like that's the whole point, to walk alongside with one another
Yeah.
and to point each other to Jesus.
Right.
So
And I'm also a youth pastor, so I'm used to walking along these things. So don't think you're overwhelming us by reaching out to these two random people. I'm used to talking through any of these issues.
Yeah.
So bring your burdens if you have any, and you need somebody to talk to.
I'll bring my burdens to you.
So just to really end this, so remember that we must make a stand on what is true, and what is unshakable and undeniable. And what that is that every one of you that are listening in Jesus are perfect, just the way you are, and loved and known more than you could ever imagine by a personal heavenly Father. And no matter what one or maybe 10 tiny human beings say, nothing can change that. Nothing can change that truth that has been spoken over you, declared over you. Live into that and make your home in that, dwell in that, and be at peace. And then worship God. Thank Him for that. And something that's kind of funny that I realized as we were thinking about what we were talking about is that we, in the beginning, we were dissing Disney a little bit for giving bad expectations about relationships. Well, just about their standard about love.
Yeah,
right?
just using it as an example.
We were dissing them a little bit on just how they make their expectations of being fulfilled in one person. But what we came to the conclusion of is actually Disney does have it right, that's what love should look like, but not in another person. The Disney love only works if that person is Jesus himself. If you're finding your full identity in Christ, if he is the one, he's the one. He's always been the one. He's the only one that can fulfill you, bring you that joy, bring you that peace, bring you that fulfillment. He's the one that Disney always points to inadvertently. But again, human beings will always fail you. They're broken. They're not going to fulfill you. But only Jesus is that one true happily ever after if you actually make that relationship with him. And he sought you out. He's done everything to prepare the way. All you have to do is accept him and let him in.
Yeah. Beautifully said.
Yeah. So thank you, Disney, for pointing us to Jesus, even though I don't know if you guys are Christian or not.
Probably not.
And we love you. We still have Disney Plus. We'll never cancel it. Not a sponsor. All right. Well, this has been the Of Clay and Stone podcast. Again, if you haven't subscribed, make sure to subscribe to stay up to date with our content. We're going to talk about a couple different other idols in the next coming weeks. I'm Josh Santana,
And I'm Jocelyn Santana.
and we'll catch you next time.
Bye.